गुड मॉर्निंग एंड वेलकम टू गना शॉट। गना शॉट में आप सबका स्वागत है। Today we're going to talk of something very interesting. We're going to talk of China, the jilted lover of Pasni. Okay, before I go further, I must also welcome not only viewers from Gana Shot, but also those who have joined from P Gurus, right? This is a joint podcast. So at the outset, those from P Gurus, subscribe to Gana Shot also, and those from Gana Shot, please subscribe to P Gurus also, because you'll get the best of both. We are quite different channels in many ways, but equally we are together in many ways, right? So you'll get the best of both. That's the thing which I wanted to put across to you. The flavor is different, but the orientation is the same. Right, let's get back to China, the jilted lover of Pasni. We've not heard of it, this famous thing that suddenly Pasni was offered to Americans, and we've done a lot of analysis on it, all that. We've never seen as to how it has affected China. What is the Chinese viewpoint? And it's not come in any international news, it's not come in even the normal tabloids. So I had to search hard. Or is there a lid on the thing? No. Then I came across a few articles in Baidu, Baidu.com. So I'm going to present them to you, right? But look at it. You know, I mean, look at this cartoon. It tells everything, right? Uh, the Pakistani damsel in the lap of China, and suddenly here comes this rock star salesman selling rocks to USA, and out comes Pasni deal. And at this point of time, make no mistake, China is pointing fingers at Asim Munir, and they're very cut up about it. You know, even when I read the articles, various articles about China and about Pasni in China, I didn't get any article which went completely against Pakistan or commented, reacted. But I came across one article which was a deep analysis, right? I mean, they're not. The interesting thing is the Chinese are not reacting emotionally about it. They're waiting and watching and biding their time. Even this analysis, which I'm going to discuss with you, suggests so. They're biding their time. They're going to see where Pakistan is heading. Oh, well, look, we all know where Pakistan is heading. Then it is heading nowhere. It's only heading into a brick wall in Afghanistan. We know what's happening in Afghanistan. We know there's a ceasefire, the famous Pakistani ceasefire, where the first thing they get hit and they say ceasefire, ceasefire, and then they'll declare victory. But only thing is, in this case, the Afghans have declared victory. So let us see where that goes. But that is at a later date. Then there's also a lot of news about India, America, USA, Sharm el Sheikh, and all that. Okay, so that we'll discuss in the evening. And we have this a show of three good generals. We'll discuss it. Mr. Shriya is not too well. I'm sure he'll recover in a few days. So till then, I'll continue. We'll continue with it. The show doesn't stop, right? And so we'll discuss India, USA beyond Sharm el Sheikh. That's in the evening. And sometime I'm going to talk about China, and everyone talks today that China is number one and USA has declined, all that. For some funny reason, people don't seem to understand that China itself is declining. How can it be number one? Right? So, we have to look at things practically. It is not as if the world is divided only between between America and China. If America is not number one, China is number one, and everyone has to go, give namaskaram and fall at that field. And, China is not the latest Indian temple going around. So, we have to understand all these things, but that's later. We'll now talk of the Pasni. We'll get back to Pasni. Okay, this is the thing which I got. This is from Baidu.com. Because many of you won't believe what I'm going to talk or what I'm going to put. So, today, what I'm going to do is we're going to have a readout of these articles. So, you understand the nuance which is coming out of China. You need to understand the kind of feelings that they're experiencing and how they've analyzed it. Right? I'm not going to explain much. I'll explain after having read what the Chinese have written. One. Number two, the English won't be that great because this is a translation of the Chinese Mandarin, because all the Baidu.com is in Mandarin. And the links to two articles which I've fished out are in the description. You know, and when you go to the description, you you know, click on those links, you'll go to the original Mandarin version. Okay, because what I'm going to say is all authentic. There's nothing different. So, what does this headline say? It says Pakistan cooperated with the United States to develop a new port, which is only 113 kilometers away from the Chinese port. And then he talks. Then there's another article. He says behind the balance between major countries, Pakistan's invitation to US to build a port. Interesting. Now, the point is, both these articles have slightly different angles which they've dealt with, but I've amalgamated them, got extracts, and we'll speak about that today. And it comes out that they've done a 360-degree evaluation of China, the whole story, and they're waiting, they're biding their time. Okay, this is for everyone who needs to understand. Well, this is Pasni. Let me make it a little bigger. This is Pasni. Okay, this is Gwadar, right? And this is Chabahar. This is Chabahar. Okay, very close. Our interests, their interests are all close, and this is Karachi. No, and of course, this is Baluchistan. This entire thing is Baluchistan, and these mines and where they're taking Rikodik and Sandak. Sandak is the mine in which Chinese are already mining. Rikodik is the mine which has been offered now to USA for critical minerals and all that. Interestingly, those mines are also just about 80 kilometers apart. Just think. Just think. Those mines are 80 kilometers apart. Their ports are 100 kilometers apart. Both are going to come down and all that. And the Chinese are already smarting because this road, this coastal road, has been built by the Chinese. Okay. They'll say the Americans will now use our roads. So all those things are there. So there's something which is fundamentally interesting and intriguing about this entire Pasni deal. And that the Chinese have come out with it very well. We'll come to it. And a lot of people are talking a lot about Pasni and the port and all that. You know, I read about it and went into it. It's a deep port. This is the port. This is the port part. Okay. But you see the approach to the port. There seems to be a creek from here and from here. Actually, when I'll put it fully so that you have looked. Okay. From here. There's, of course, a satellite picture. There's a sandbank out here. And around the sandbank, you can see water. So the entrance to the port is constricted. It's not so easy. You can go from here or you can enter from here. When I saw it in detail, some ships I saw small ships entering from here and some from here. My guess is they'll have to this creek must be very heavily silted. You can see green water, which means there's depth in this channel. And they have to desilt hell of a lot. And that's the reports also which are saying. So this port is not readily usable as if it is being made out. It's not as if suddenly overnight you go and jump into Pasni and you can start shipping ore from there. If the Americans have to come, they have to put in a lot of money, develop this port, develop communications and all that. The only advantage with Pasni is there's a full-fledged airport about 5 kilometers away. That's a Pak Air Force base. So this move by Asim Munir is quite strategic in nature. Somehow get America, get USA in and let them. But it could be foolhardy also. You can't turn your most sensitive state into a battleground. And that's bound to happen. Okay. Right. Now let me get into the fundamentals of what the Chinese are saying. Some might feel it's a little boring, but I'll go through each and I'll explain the nuance in each aspect. Okay. So he says Pasni is only 113 kilometers. China has invested, built, and operated Gwadar. 113 kilometers between Pasni and Gwadar. The Chinese view this as playing chess face to face under someone else's eyes. So the question is, in this big drama of port diplomacy, which director set up the game and who's behind the scenes? So is this done at the behest of USA, done at the behest of Pakistan? And if so, who? Who is this guy who's upsetting the Chinese apple cart? Right. At the outset, the Chinese are very clear. It's the chief of army staff, chief of staff of Pakistan Army, who's given this plan to set up a new port, and he's chosen Pasni and offered it to USA. So the finger goes direct to this guy, the rock star. That's why this cartoon, I put it, that's the opening thing which, okay. And then they describe, he says, look, this was originally a deserted beach. Suddenly it has become a strategic node. And suddenly the global attention is on those media. It's a sleepy old port. And in that thing, the Gwadar is being questioned. Gwadar has been questioned for its safety, port transportation, pure infrastructure behind Gwadar, in the mainland. And when that viability of Gwadar was under question, why has this come up all of a sudden? Which is even worse than Gwadar. Gwadar was a real deep sea port. Pasni the harbor is deep, but the approaches to the harbor is not. That's what I explained. That's why I explained to you. Oh, uh, you know, he says, look, at this point of time, the Pakistani side suddenly threw out such a new card. They're calling it a card. And it was personally led by the military advisor. So the chief. So they know that Asim Munir has played this card. And it's not a makeshift decision. So the finger is directly on Asim Munir. Okay. And then they say Pasni, the nuance is why Pasni? Pasni, he says, is going to be the port for mineral exports. Mineral exports where? To Western capitals. And get Western technology into this area. Of course, no one knows whether mining will be, some refining will be done here or pre-refining will be done here and taken and all that. We don't know. But my horse sense tells me, look, there are two, three problems. One, you can get ore from Rekodik, which is in the edge of Balochistan, Afghanistan area, and get it down to Pasni. You can get, but there are no road lines. There are no trains. All this proposal involves building a road, building a train, all that. Where will you get energy from? Where will you get power? Even if you build a railway line or a road, right? That's one. And in that area, to build a road or a railway line will take another 10 years. That's the minimum. So then you can do mining, but for refining, you need water. There's no water in that area. So will raw ore go and get refined in USA? Big question mark. It's big question mark because, it's something one has to understand. It's not as if rare earths are not available in USA. They are there in a place called Mountain Pass in California. Those of you who are from USA will know this. Mountain Pass, California. The problem with Mountain Pass, California is about 20, 30 years back, they were mining, they're still mining rare earths from there and refining it. But ecologically, it is harmful. So USA willfully transferred this whole thing to China. So where will they take this ore? They'll send it to China. That's asking for trouble, isn't it? Okay. So he says there are a lot of questions in this Pasni business, but the card has been thrown on the table. He says, look, saying that Pasni will open the gateway to everything is like saying that Gwadar was also, same thing was told about Gwadar 10 years back. And Gwadar was the starting point of the China-Pakistan economic corridor, the arrowhead and all that nonsense. What is it? Right? Yes, this story by Pakistan is something similar. What at that point they went behind China, now they're going behind USA. That's what it's written here. And he says the protagonist has changed, but the lines seem to be familiar. And the doorway behind this is intriguing. Where is this whole story going? Where is Pakistan taking this whole story? So it is, the words, if you see in this original article, and that's why I put this, you can keep reading also. I'll not read everything, but you keep reading, you will understand. Very intriguing. I mean, I won't say very intriguing, very telling. He says, is this Pakistan's double insurance? While continuing to eat China's investment, okay, it also hands olive branches to US so that it is trying to win more opportunities. They know that Pakistan is double dealing. Then they also feel that look, Pakistan is getting rid of dependence on China, and they want to be more independent and the fate of their country in their hands. They know Asim Munir's game. He says the Chinese say, look, Gwadar was the maritime fulcrum of the Belt and Road. Okay, and it has become a regional hub, or rather progressing to be a regional hub. Out of the blue, here comes Pasni, and another door is opened as a competitor to downplay Gwadar. That's not acceptable. Not acceptable to the Chinese. Okay? But then they say, look, all this is happening, but this is not a government decision as it. Munir's advisors have sent a signal to USA. But there are issues of making it legal in the Pakistani cabinet on finance, diplomacy, and everything else. But he says, look, this is the word I must read out. However, the military's chess move is not small. Directly throwing the topic of US-Pakistan cooperation port on the table. So, okay, it depends on whether the United States is willing to take the move. It's a fact. So far, United States has not risen to the bait. Who knows? It's also feasible that Munir is playing a smart hand. He'll say, you want minerals there, develop this port for me. One. Number two, even if the minerals are developed there and Trump goes there, after all, Asim Munir is Trump's favorite field marshal, isn't it? He's Trump's favorite field marshal. Right. Okay. So, so how will this whole thing be pulled off? The minerals need a port exit. It can't go through Gwadar. It can't come to Karachi. It's too far. So it's interesting to see how USA will take this whole story up. And that's what China points out. But something is on the cards. You see, the very reason that Pasni has come up was indicative of the fact that this was being discussed. Everyone knows the minerals can be there. Minerals can be there on top of Mount Everest also. Can you get them down? That's the point. Right? Then they say about Pasni, very important this. Judging from a series of recent actions of the United States in the Indo-Pacific region, it is indeed getting closer to Pakistan's security relations, counter-terrorism cooperation, border control, and technical assistance. There may be many cards in its hand, and it is missing a big project that can be implemented. USA. This USA doesn't have a big project in this area. So what if they start off with this infrastructure? What is the effect on the Indo-Pacific? You're sitting next to a major base which China wants to develop and neutralize it. And what will be the effect on the larger Indo-Pacific? Forget about Trump's orientation today that he's pivoted away from Indo-Pacific? Long term, right? And then he says, the next point of analysis is a mineral export port can also connect the rare metal transportation channels between Afghanistan and Central Asia. So just think, Pasni, go north, you hit Reykjavik, go north, Kabul, Afghanistan, go north, Central Asia. And Central Asia is full of minerals. And we also know that USA is making an outreach to Central Asia. Well, last month, everyone knows that the military chiefs of Central Asia were called to Pakistan. There was a talk where the CENTCOM commander came. So all this is on the cards. And then he says, look, Pakistan, if Pakistan dares to engage in port picking between China and USA, it must do one thing well. Don't completely offend both the sides. And you have to fool each other. So they're expecting China is expecting Pakistan to fool it. China is expecting Pakistan to fool USA. Otherwise, they can't survive. And then he says if this whole game doesn't go well, not only the new port may be dead, but even the port of Gwadar may suffer. They call it Gwadal. That's why I just left that word. May suffer. So that gives me another thing. Is this Pakistan's aim to kill Gwadar? Okay. Is this the whole game plan? Right. And then he says, it's nice to say that the port is going to be built and all that. But who's going to put money? The crunch will come when the money is put on the table and development of Pasni starts. And my guess is development of Pasni will start when the minerals start getting exploited there. The fact that the minerals there is known in Reykjavik because there's a proper survey, international survey given out by Barrick Gold. The thing is how to take it out from there. Okay, right. Then they talk of there's a very extensive set of analysis. So I'm going over each angle. Then they say, look, China and Pakistan are iron friends. They call Gwadar is the banner port of Sino-Pak cooperation. Banner port means flagship. Okay. And China has invested billions of dollars. And the construction started in 2002, amalgamated into Belt and Road in 2015. And then a lot of terminals have been expanded and industrial parks have been set up and all that. All this, a couple of $1 billion or more have been put into Gwadar. They have not only repaired the port, but complete set of infrastructure such as power plants, highways, communications, everything. They're stating all this. And he says, as per one plan, this was to become Shenzhen on the Indian Ocean. This is a dream which was being sold to Chinese by the Pakistanis. Or the dream which Chinese built to sell it to the Pakistanis. Or the Chinese built to sell it to Pakistanis. And then he says this was the thing which was, Gwadar was to connect the China-Pakistan economic corridor and open the channel between Western China, that is Xinjiang, to the ocean. Access to the warm waters of the Gulf. And strategically speaking, the port of Gwadar is like a fixed Neptune needle of China in the Arabian Sea. So now, this is the Gwadar part of the story. Then he says, look, there are problems in Gwadar. The geographical or a geopolitical environment is complex. Security situation in Balochistan has been unstable. The port has been bombed and armed attacks have been carried out many times. We know that. We also know that there are a lot of protests there, Gwadar Ko Hak Do. And that Gwadar Ka Hak Do movement went on for a couple of months last year. The risk to Chinese personnel stationed there has been very high. Right? And he says, look, Pakistan has set up police, security, and all that, but they've not been able to eliminate the threat. And they're worried, and genuinely. And this issue of security threat to the Chinese came up when Xi Jinping met Shahbaz Sharif and Asim Munir during the SCO also. This point came up in that bilateral meet. So they're reiterating it in this. He says, secondly, this is interesting, and this is something which we need to focus on. And they're now coming out with the problems of Gwadar. He says the commercial value of Gwadar has not been realized for a long time. 10 years, $2.5 billion, and there's no return of income. How much can China keep affording to throw it? Then they say that although the port of Gwadar has connection capacity, the import and export volume is far lower than expected. There's no trade happening in Gwadar. It's a dead port. Transport efficiency, custom declaration process, and transportation supporting enterprises have not kept up with the pace. I've done a video on Gwadar. There's nothing there today. Many Chinese funded enterprises are shouting there is no logistics closed loop infrastructure. And the investment return is worrying. There's no investment. And there's no return. There's no trade. There's no power. There's no electricity. Or there's no water. Right? Coupled with the economic constraints under the political game, the United States and United States and Europe have kept a distance from the port of Gwadar for a long time and have deliberately treated it coldly. They understand that they're being isolated. Actually, Gwadar is isolated. None of the Western carriers go and get into the stop there. Actually speaking, Gwadar has got capability to accommodate super tankers. The hope at one point of time, I remember, was super tankers will come from wherever, come to Gwadar. Gwadar will be a transshipment point. From there, smaller ships will go into the Gulf. So everything coming out of the Gulf will stop at Gwadar, transship into larger carriers and go halfway across the world wherever and do whatever. That's not happened because everyone has avoided it. So Gwadar, actually in this article it comes, he says, look, Gwadar has failed. The Chinese are admitting that Gwadar has failed. And then financing. He says World Bank and international financial institutions are not involved in relevant financing. And the port has fallen to the dilemma of single external resource. The single external resource is China. The burden, you see, we all talk, oh, Gwadar has been developed by China, all that. Look at what they're saying. Look at the problems that Gwadar is facing. Not viable economically. Strategically not viable. Everyone is avoiding it. The Chinese are finding the difficulty of funding it. He says, to put it bluntly, although China can afford it, it is difficult to make ends meet. When people talk of China, its reach, Belt and Road, please understand. It's easy to build something, but very difficult to maintain it and keep it up and get value out of it. One of China's major problems, the Communist Party of China has muffed it. What they have done, they have built everything all over, including within China. There's no return of income on that. So the stooges of the Communist Party made plans, and they all boomeranged on them. They made plans saying, oh, I'll build a road here, I'll get so much EAO and all that, justified it, built a road. Out of that road, nothing, even donkey carts don't move in many places in China. So you can make investment, you can make infrastructure, but there's no return. What's the good use? It's all gone. Money in the sand. He says now, at this point of time, the second or the 1.0 upgraded version or the second phase of CPC is now in progress. Now, if port of Pasni comes, it will hit CPC. Says it embarrasses. This is an embarrassment point for the CPEC, right? He says both Pasni and Gwadar are next to each other. They will have similar shipping functions. And if now here comes a threat, they feel. He says if Pasni takes off in the international route, because the Westerners will come there. Western lines will come there to get the ore out. Gwadar will face the risk of being marginalized, which is not acceptable to China. Even the flagship of CPEC will be useless. See, when foreign investment evaluates projects, they pay attention to comparability. This is their argument. Two ports with similar functions and only 100 kilometers apart, whichever has a better political and economic environment and stronger investment behind it, can attract more freight and investment. Very logical, isn't it? So they're worried that USA might shift the political climate towards itself. It can force others also, in which case it is actually killing Gwadar. Okay, if there is a party with frequent entry and exit of foreign merchant ships and bright data, capital will naturally flow over to them. Threat. So what happens to Chinese $2.5 billion? That's the fear which the Chinese have. You see how many things this guy has analyzed. Okay, the Chinese will definitely not sit idly and watch the port of Pasni start another stove. That they're lighting another fire there, Pakistanis. Then he says, look, the significance of the China-Pakistan economic corridor is not only in the economy, but also in the combination of politics and strategy. There's strategic value in this. We all know that. That's also being threatened. Okay. Once there is a port of internal volume that is Pasni, it takes off. Gwadar will be diluted, known. But more importantly, China's geographical influence in South Asia will also be weakened. And China has been upgrading Gwadar with the introduction of automatic loading and unloading. They've constructed the Gwadar-Quetta highway, capital cooperation between, financial cooperation between Middle East and Pakistan and China. All this is going down. And they've done all this to increase the hard power of the port and meet the challenges of potential political opponents. So the whole idea is once this port takes off Gwadar, everyone is enmeshed financially in it, then get the security element in and establish it as their first overseas theater command. That was that was China's long-term aim. Now that is under threat. All this is coming out in this analysis. These two analyses told me all this. And what I've given out is only extract from that virtually. He says in this new area of new variable, China has not made a statement so far. But This analyst, whoever's written, he says, look, China and Pakistan might have communicated in this so that there's no conflict of interest developing. And then he says, I mean, some communication would have happened to prevent port conflict from turning into strategic trust crack. They also recognize that Pakistan is playing the chip well. He says it's become the biggest chip owner. The chip is the card it has. It can bargain on both sides. And it can also use the port issue to consolidate military and governmental consensus internally in exchange for technical and financial support externally. It's like a game of chess, right? Now, that's where he says the relationship between China and Pakistan is iron or not. So the iron brother equation has come into it. Okay. The CPEC has already invested tens of billions of dollars, including Port Gwadar, Karakoram Highway, Energy Corridor, YEVO, all that. He says this is not just a small investment. And if Pasni is operated by United States, it will become a window to observe and restrain Port Gwadar. So their core strategic interests are under threat. Okay. Then he says, look, if USA comes into Pasni, it's like lighting a fire under China. Under this, it'll burn the China-Pakistan economic corridor. And then he says, look, USA, ever since it's exited Afghanistan, it has lost its access to Central Asia. If this port is set up, it will not only restore the supply line, but it will increase energy transportation and influence and all that. And Port Pasni is just right for all this. It's got water depth, it's got a waterway, which I showed you, and it's got the climate same as Gwadar. And they also say that American think tanks have been studying this whole story to get hold of a foothold here. So it's not new to anyone. The Chinese have been studying this because they would have studied it next door. What if America comes there? So you're going to see things happening. Right? He says this is not just an economic calculation by the chief of army staff. It's also a strategic signal. And then he says, look, Pakistan is also knows that the progress in Gwadar is not as it expected. This is a progress in Gwadar. It doesn't have roads, railways, supporting areas is slowed down by domestic politics. Port throughput has not increased and benefits are difficult to show. So Gwadar actually in this tacitly the Chinese are agreeing or saying that it has been a failure so far. If Pasni is given to USA, it will become a complete failure. Okay. And then their hold on Pakistan will also reduce. Is this what Pakistan is playing for? It's a different thing. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to happen over 5, 6, 10 years. Okay. That's the aim. And that's how the Chinese are viewing it. Will Chinese keep quiet? Of course not. They'll do something. Here it comes. There is another side of the matter, which is the crisis of trust. Although Sino-Pakistan relationship is called, iron can also rust. So they've given the threat. So you do this, we'll stop giving you. See, where Pakistan is caught is Pakistan is completely indebted to China, nearly $23 billion. Pakistan doesn't have the money for it. What it gets as loan from IMF only is useful for running the country, nothing else, and buying some arms. 80% of military hardware of USA is Chinese. So not USA, of Pakistan is Chinese. So if the Pakistanis wag their tail, the Chinese can turn a lot of buttons. Okay. But if and Pakistan is smart, and which it appears it is smart. There's no doubt. This Munir is quite a dangerous guy. And he's a thinker. Let's be very clear. He's doing it slowly. And he's gone and sat in Trump's. And in the next 2, 3 years, Trump can do something which will offset the Chinese. And then they also know, they also understand. Look, in recent years, Pakistan has experienced regime change, economic crisis, and frequent terrorist attacks. He says the problem with all this is that every time a new government comes, it wants to renegotiate the conditions. That's not acceptable to them again. And then he says, look, China has suffered losses in investment, security, and is increasingly cautious about Pakistan's political stability. The emergence of the Pasni proposal will undoubtedly escalate this caution. So there's a problem for China in this Pasni thing. Then he says, USA. USA knows the whole story. Let's not think USA is a fool. And he says USA will not invest money in a hurry. That's their assessment. The card of Port Pasni is like a fishing line. Throw it out, let Pakistan take the hook. Let Pakistan side bite the hook. So the USA is also playing game. It's thrown a line out to Pakistan. And USA is waiting for Pakistan to take the bite, and Pakistan will take the bite. And then he says, very interesting, it doesn't matter what the port, whether the port can be built or how much capital is invested. What matters is that the US has re-entered the South Asian discourse circle. See, USA's game plan could also be, look, I'll do this, I'll do that, interest alive, keep Pakistan on the hook, keep Pakistan away from China, do nothing and wreck Gwadar. It might be playing, it will play Pakistan out. And my guess is that's what's going to happen. So far, we have to understand Trump is no fool. He's playing people. He's playing everyone to America's advantage. People who think Trump is playing a foolish hand, I don't agree with it. So there are layers to this whole story which is happening. And this article actually brings out all these layers. Okay. Then he says the military advisor is Asim Munir. His kite is too high and the government has to shorten this line. Pakistan's domestic economic crisis is ongoing. High external debt, limited fiscal revenue. Then some projects in China-Pakistan economic corridor have slowed down. Few new investment, foreign investment is a lifeline for Pakistan. Not coming. And the military understands that the funds and technology of the US are short-term stimulus. US will not be there for the long haul because that's the history. Okay. And then he says, look, Pakistan can think of strategic autonomy, but it can't achieve it because strategic autonomy is linked to financial viability and foreign aid. He says, this is the contradiction of Pakistan. They don't have both. So where will they go? Okay. Okay, Port Pasni made the outside world re-examine Pakistan's strategic positioning. For decades, it has been swaying between China and United States and has never completely fallen to either side. During the Cold War, it relied on US military, and in the 21st century, it relied on China's investment. Now it is throwing olive branches to the United States. Beyond every turn is economic pressure and safety anxiety. The security situation in Balochistan makes the Pasni project more complicated. The local separatist force have attacked the infrastructure many times. And Gwadar port has experienced terrorist attacks. The security costs are extremely high. If the United States really intervenes in the construction, it will inevitably require control of the security system and even garrison advice. For China, it touches a red line. For Pakistan, it means a sovereign risk. Fort Pasni may never start construction, but but its existence is enough to stir up the seas. So, right? So, under these circumstances, what should the Chinese do? That's what also he says. The Chinese side should remain calm. Beijing very well knows Pakistan's economic anxiety cannot be resolved overnight, and also knows that the interests of the United States is more like testing the water. And China still continues to focus on the industrial area, road network, all that. So the Chinese are playing a waiting game. They're biding their time in this whole story. They're going to see how this goes. But this is not the end, right? This is not the end of the story. What do we do? That's a question mark. Because we've spoken all this. What is our priority? The way I look at it, I would welcome USA into Pakistan. We need to understand what are we dealing with? What is your problem? What is our problem? With USA, you had an on-off relationship. With Pakistan, largely an off relationship. With China is a major on-off relationship. So who do you use? What is your threat? We know our major threat or major source of war, violence, everything comes from Pakistan. Violence largely comes from Pakistan. That's our history. You have to neutralize Pakistan. You're not able to do it on your own. For many reasons. Okay. It's not a matter of defeating Pakistan. Every time you defeat Pakistan, it comes with a new avatar. So why not and once for the past 10 years, with China sitting in Pakistan, it has constricted you hell of a lot. So how do you kill China and Pakistan? Get USA and let him do what he wants. So in my way of looking at it, I think it's a damn good thing which is happening. And if we encourage USA to get into Pakistan, and especially in Balochistan, it will keep the Chinese off balance, it will keep Pakistan off balance, and in any case, USA will be off balance. It suits us. Well, people will say, okay, what if the Chinese US presence in Pakistan comes up and there's a base there? So what if there's a base there? There's a base just another 1,000 kilometers away in Dubai. Not Dubai, what is it in Qatar. Anyway, they use Dubai. Anyway, their super carriers loaf around this area. So what if they come near into Pakistan? Let them be there. Let them go into Afghanistan. Let them go into Central Asia. If the Americans are there, this whole area is anyway unstable. It will go even more unstable. More actors. They'll keep fighting amongst themselves. You'll get peace. So there are advantages. But with these advantages come risks. So what are these risks? We have to evaluate. And you have to offset them. Right? So interesting times. See, everyone thinks Pasni, all that. The Chinese are waiting and watching what's happening. That's why I thought, put across to all of you the Chinese point of view. Because that has been missing from all analysis about Pasni. Okay. Now there are a lot of talks about Taliban and, all that. I'll not take that on today. I'll not take on other subjects because, like I told you, evening we'll talk of, India, USA, and beyond in Sharm el Sheikh. And maybe tomorrow morning we'll talk of Afghanistan and Pakistan and where the whole story is going. Okay.